In yesterday's video, we talked about a scenario that played out to perfection. Bitcoin forming a double bottom and then getting a massive pump before potentially reversing. We are now struggling at the previous all-time high, and in today's video, we'll be discussing exactly this, looking at the charts, looking at the data, and telling you where I think Bitcoin could be going next. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So let's kick us off, of course, with Bitcoin. Do you recognize this scenario that we discussed in yesterday's video? It was the potential double bottom formation right around 106.8K. If you don't believe me, I'll roll the clip. Every time that we flirted with the previous all-time high right around 109.5K, we did get rejected. One over here, then we came back down all the way to 106.8K, another pump to try and see if we can break above it during this weekend, and then we came all the way back down to around 106.8K again. Potentially, this could be a double bottom to give us enough fuel on these shorter time frames to go ahead and really break through this level once again. We did get enough fuel to break towards the level. However, if we take a look at the Bitcoin chart, we are once again seeing a little bit of rejection right around 109.5K. Again, the reason why this is so important is because it's the previous all-time high wick, and we aren't able to hold there and consolidate. So this tells me that Bitcoin may want to go lower. And if I zoom out on this chart, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. The previous wick, which was set in January of this year, all the way up to around 109.5K, we are struggling to break above it. And when we look at the bigger picture here, we can see that Bitcoin just had 7 weekly green candles in a row. You know what that means? Correction should be imminent. Now that is my base case, but as I always say, just because I may be a little bit more bearish, it does not mean that we can't see some invalidations. And the clear invalidation for me, as I have been saying on the channel, is not just a break above 109.5K, but a break and hold as support. And as we saw today, this price action tells me that even with a solid double bottom on the 1 hour time frame, we are still breaking below this level. Now things can change. Of course, on the 4 hour, it does paint a little bit of the same picture. We are now breaking below this level, and if we close like this, I would be expecting some continuation to the downside. That being said though, if we take a look at this Bitcoin chart, which we've been discussing at length over the past few weeks, this suggests to me that with this trend line going all the way back to 2017, now the question would be, would we make it all the way up to this range and then get that brutal bear market as seen in 2021? Or can we just chop around here now, get a little bit of a breakdown, and then towards the end of the year, Q3, Q4, we go ahead and tag this trend line later. Now, I would much prefer this because, of course, the further out that Bitcoin ends up touching this trend line, the higher Bitcoin would be. Now, the ultimate case here for the bulls of the century would be to break above this level and then hold it as support, and then we get that super cycle theory really coming into effect. But for now, my base case is that we'll likely get an even more severe rejection once we touch this trend line. Back to the Bitcoin chart here, as you can see on the 4 hour time frame, you also need to understand that despite the fact that the highest probability scenario, in my opinion, is for Bitcoin to move a little bit lower from here, a lot of people have started trying to short this market. And we've been over the liquidation maps in my previous video. Now, however, there is liquidity between both areas because as Bitcoin did form that double bottom, a lot of people rushed to get into the Bitcoin long. If I take a look at the liquidation chart right here, we can see that there's a ton of liquidity from here all the way up to around $112,000. However, there's a lot of liquidity to the downside. And you know how I told you in my previous video that there was about 2 times more longs in the markets than shorts, and the shorts were catching up? Well, unfortunately, this trend changed again. We can see now that there's only about $5.5 billion worth of short liquidation leverage when Bitcoin hits around $112,000. However, on the flip side, we have nearly $19 billion worth of long liquidation leverage if Bitcoin goes down to 95K. Now, I know that a lot of you probably couldn't imagine Bitcoin going down to 95K. It seems unimaginable. However, if you're not new to the space, you know that we've seen corrections like this before, and honestly, this wouldn't surprise me. I'm not calling for that immediately because right now, as we know, people are going ahead and trying to short this market as much as people are trying to long this market between these two levels. But overall, we still have more longs in the market, and that tells me that Bitcoin does want to go ahead and move lower. Let's see how we close the daily candle. Ultimately, daily closes below this level is not what you want to see. But as I said in my previous video, if we go back to this Bitcoin chart, if we continue to hold above 106.2K, then ultimately things are still looking very positive for Bitcoin and we can bounce and move higher from there. However, the moment that we start breaking below this key daily support level, that is when I would be saying Bitcoin will be moving much, much lower. And while Bitcoin is chopping around, why don't we have a look at our friendly whale? Let's take a look at the charts. He is now sitting in over a $6 million loss. So yesterday's video, he had a $1 billion short position. A couple weeks prior, he had a $1 billion long position. He closed both positions with millions of dollars of loss, and now he has re-entered the market, longing Bitcoin right around $110,000, sitting around just under a $7 million loss with his liquidation price at 107.5K. I think it's more than likely that this guy is just a degenerate gambler with a lot of money. He made a ton of money early on, and now he is putting his money back into the casino and just entering random positions. Because right now, if we take a look at his total profits, he has now, over the course of the past 30 days, only earned $4 million. Now, you might hear me say only. Well, this amount was up to $45 million. So he is currently getting wrecked in both directions. His all-time profit is sitting right around $17 million. And if this guy is not careful, he will end up losing all of the money that he made. And this is a perfect example of someone who is about to round trip all of their gains. And the worst part, he approached this with a lot of confidence. He just came out on Twitter and said, maybe my timing was a tad off, but now it feels right. Imagine entering a Bitcoin long at around $110,000. Speaking of trades, in my community though, we actually entered a Bitcoin short right around 110.2K, made some significant profits, and all of our members are printing. That reminds me, if you want to trade with me, you have the third link in my description down below right here, the Telegram community, CBM Trades. Now, to enter my Signals group, you do have to sign up with one of my exchange links down below, which, as you know, is Blofin and Weeks. Blofin have an excellent bonus. You can earn up to $5,000 for free, a 15% bonus cashback. However, Weeks also has an excellent bonus where you can earn up to $30,000 in rewards, and the first 100 users that sign up with my link can get a $100 bonus. You also get a 20% deposit bonus. Personally, for bigger positions, I go ahead and trade on Blofin, and for smaller positions and quick ones, I like to trade on Weeks. But I digress. In my community, we absolutely nailed this top. We missed the wick by maybe a couple $100, and we entered a very, very profitable short, making thousands of dollars. Again, if you want to join, the third link in my description down below, and if you want to save yourself the hassle, go ahead and sign up with some of my exchange links and make a deposit. As soon as we confirm that you're ready to trade, you get entered automatically into my free Signal group where you can copy and paste all of my trades and the trades of my analysts. Now, we of course have to bring up Bitcoin dominance in this video. Look at that pump. Sure, Bitcoin went ahead and pumped, and the rest of the altcoin market actually got some more relief. However, when Bitcoin went ahead and corrected again, that is when altcoins continued to suffer against Bitcoin, and of course, Bitcoin dominance continues to increase. This is a pretty strong daily candle once again, and you'll remember what I told you. As soon as we got this wick, in particular, if we look at the weekly candle, when we touched the bull market support band, you'll remember that I was even more bullish on Bitcoin dominance, telling you guys that I think we will go ahead and first of all, break this wick above here. But second of all, I do think that it is inevitable that we will go make it all the way up to 66% dominance. Now, outside of the technicalities of this double bottom, why did Bitcoin actually pump? Because it wasn't just from a technical perspective. Trump came out and agreed to delay the 50% EU tariffs until July 9th. Of course, the market started pumping because of this. But remember, today is a holiday in the United States. It is a relatively illiquid environment, and you should never trust those kinds of pumps. The stock market, for one, is closed. So taking a look at Bitcoin here, as I said, with confirmed closes below 109.5K, and as you probably know by now, my base case is that Bitcoin will likely move lower, but how low? First of all, I want to see us at least hold above 106.2K as support on the daily time frame. Once again, if you're new to the channel, the reason why this is so important is because prior to this breakout for Bitcoin, we never had daily closes above that level. And now we're starting to get a bunch of daily closes above that level. So to me, it does make sense that Bitcoin could move back down here and try to hold this level as support. If it doesn't though, we do have a pretty big cluster of liquidity over here, right between 102K all the way up to around 106K. And we also have the previous breakdown region, which we discussed in a lot of my videos prior to this. Now, this breakdown region would only really be tested if we lose these support levels. For now, keep your eyes on 106.2K and don't think about it too much. If you're in a spot position, of course, you're likely happy that Bitcoin went ahead and made a new all-time high and you're not stressing too much about the market. But when it comes to trading, I would be looking for this key daily support level if you're not into quick hourly trades. If you want quick trade setups, once again, you have the third link in my description down below, which brings you directly to my community where I'm posting these trades on a regular basis. And lastly, I wanted to end my video with this, the next Bitcoin halvings. This is just to show you how early you actually are to this industry. We had Genesis, the block reward 50. Then we had the 2012 halving with the block reward at 25. Then we had the 2016 halving, block reward 12.5. 2020 halving, block reward 6.25. 2024 halving, block reward 3.125. Look how many more halvings we will have for Bitcoin. This tells you that you are still early. And as a matter of fact, I read somewhere that actually still below 7% of the world population owns crypto at this point. So this tells you exactly what you need to know. Sure, we can have these short-term corrections, but you should never let this mess up your conviction. I believe in Bitcoin in the long term, and all of the profitable trades that we're making go straight into Bitcoin with a small cash position to prepare myself for the potential upcoming altcoin season, of course, when monetary policy changes. But with that cash, I'm also using it to buy Bitcoin on a regular basis. You know my conviction. I believe that Bitcoin will be hitting $1 million in our lifetime, and I will be happy to share that moment with you on this channel. And just quickly before we wrap up, so the two levels you want to pay attention to, 106.2K on the daily time frame if we are to move lower, and if we are to move higher, 109.5K, the previous all-time high. If we come back up here and we hold this level as support, all of a sudden I am very, very bullish. This is how you should operate in the market. Sure, you can have a bearish or a bullish bias, but if the charts tell you something different, you need to react, and that's how we make money in this industry. And that sums up today's video. Trump pushed back the 50% tariffs on the EU, and the whale that we've been tracking is clearly just a degenerate gambler entering his long around $110,000 after closing $1 billion short and closing $1 billion long. This guy is about to lose all of his money. In the meantime, though, the community is printing, and we did call a very nice double bottom setup in yesterday's video. Now, let's see for you bulls out there if we can hold 109.5K, and if not, the next support level is 106.2K. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe, and I'll keep you updated in tomorrow's video.